Let's talk about my journey on how I turned my iPhone into an iPod. Well, sort of. If you've been following my channel recently, I've had a recent obsession with the iPod as I bought a few myself, and I even built an app replicating the iPod experience, and I'll link that down below. After modding my own iPods and building that app, I was like, why isn't there a physical scroll wheel for the iPhone? So I set out to build it. There are a few people that have worked on projects like this, like replicating the iPod scroll wheel, like my guy DuPont, who put Spotify on an iPod. One of my favorite videos on YouTube, honestly. After watching his video, it really motivated me to try and build this thing. So like any other electronics project, you gotta start out with the breadboard. So I basically had to map out the wiring on the breadboard. I used an ESP32 connected to a rotary encoder, and this rotary encoder works just like the iPod scroll wheel. So the initial version I got working with the ESP32 worked over Bluetooth. However, I also wanted to get it to work through HID as well, so through the USB-C port. And for that, I had to use an Arduino Micro, and luckily the code changes weren't that bad, so it was pretty easy to set up. Once I figured out the wiring in the code, it was a matter of soldering everything together so I could shrink everything down. And honestly, that was pretty difficult as I haven't soldered anything since college. But once you get the hang of it, it's honestly not that bad. So one thing I want to note is I haven't worked on the printed circuit board yet. I want to actually learn how to do this and actually make one for this project. But I also wouldn't mind some help on it. So if you know someone down below that can help me out with this project, please reach out to me. I'll link my email down below. And once the soldering was done, it was on to the 3D design. So with the 3D design, I had kind of a strange situation. Since I was using the iPhone as a power source for the chip, I basically had to kind of create an opening and then casing and have an ugly wire hanging out. And that's kind of my fault with the design since I'm using the iPhone as the power source and it's going from USB-C to micro USB. I was considering connecting a battery to the dev board, but that seemed like too much work for right now. And I kind of wanted to just get this video out so maybe people could help me work on this. For the 3D design version, I started off by actually printing a case connected to a box that would basically hold the board. And this was kind of my initial design where it would be an iPhone case and the board would sit kind of in a box like this underneath the iPhone. And eventually over time, I was able to clean up the design a little bit and make it look a little bit nicer with the case plus the device at the bottom. And with this last design with the case, it actually worked pretty well, but it was just a matter of like, did I over-engineer this? It could have just been a box this entire time. And that's where I actually moved to this box design, and this is the design I kind of ran with, and this is the one I'm using currently. Honestly, I started my CAD modeling as a complete noob. I hadn't really done any CAD since basically high school. So it was a little bit of a learning curve, but I got used to it, and it ended up being pretty fun designing this box. And this is my current final design of the box with this ugly wire hanging out and the USB-C coming out the top, along with the scroll wheel on the front. This device works exactly like your iPod where you can scroll over songs with the scroll wheel, you can play pause with the bottom button, you can skip with the right button, and you can go back with the left button. So a few things I'm going to continue working on for this project and hopefully improving on this over time. Number one, obviously, is the printed circuit board, so I'll continue to work on that and hopefully get that working in the next prototype and potentially figure out how to make my own rotary encoder without depending on this third-party encoder that I'm using currently. Number two is while this device is connected, it actually acts like a keyboard. So when you try to do keyboard-like things, it'll actually think there's already a keyboard attached and it won't pull up the digital keyboard. So I want to do something similar to how the Clicks keyboard works if you're familiar with that, where it can actually activate the electronic keyboard whenever you click a certain button. So I was thinking it would be the up button similar to how it works on the iPod with the menu button. Another thing I want to work on is potentially using an actual iPod scroll wheel for this device. Instead of using this third-party rotary encoder, it would actually be super sick to just have an actual iPod scroll wheel do all the same functionality. If you guys actually plan on building this project yourself, let me know if you guys have any questions or issues in the comments down below. And I'm glad I've taken it this far all by myself, and I would love some help if you guys want to get involved with this project. I'm planning to open source basically all of it so everyone can kind of build their own scroll wheel if they want to. And that's all I got. Definitely try this out. Check out all my links down below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Deuces.